Hell's campaign shows not passivity, but a bold, unrelenting offensive. The kingdom of hell is not hiding in shadows here. It is directly confronting the structures of Christianity and forcing them into defense. Satan's forces are positioned above the fray, striking downward, while the Christians beneath scramble to hold their ground. First, hell has forced Christianity into a reactive posture. Instead of expanding, evangelizing, and confidently pushing forward, many churches are stuck merely trying to survive, defend, and justify themselves against a barrage of cultural, moral, and spiritual opposition. Hell has taken the high ground, and the saints are struggling uphill. Christians feel besieged. They talk of spiritual warfare, of their faith being under attack, and of society turning against them. What they do not see is that this sense of embattlement is exactly the fruit of hell's campaign. The kingdom's victories are psychological as much as structural, instilling the mindset that they are cornered, that they are losing ground, that they must fight simply to stand still. The war is being waged in the open. The kingdom of hell has positioned itself visibly against Christ's followers. Debates on morality, public exposure of hypocrisy, ridicule of faith, and the exaltation of rival values. Each push places Christianity on defense, lowering its stature and elevating hell's influence. Hell's campaign is active, dominant, and visible. The kingdom has seized the high ground and is forcing Christianity to fight uphill battles in nearly every arena, public, private, cultural, and spiritual. One of the most cutting victories the kingdom of hell has claimed against Christianity is when the faithful quietly turn their backs and walk away. It is not always the violent blow or the scandal that wounds deepest. Many simply fade out, abandoning churches, leaving pews empty, forsaking prayers, and stepping away from doctrine. They stop attending, stop tithing, stop caring. Their footsteps are silent, but the silence weakens the church more than shouts. Hell doesn't always have to topple faith directly. Instead, it instills dissatisfaction. Christians look at their lives, look at the promises of their Christ, and sense a void. They see hypocrisy in leaders, unanswered prayers, hollow rituals. The realization dawns, this isn't enough. That emptiness is hell's whisper, guiding them to seek elsewhere. These people are choosing to walk away decisively. Hell does not need to drag them. It only needs to provide the disillusionment of the hunger for something more. From there, they walk willingly into new pursuits, self-worship, occult practices, indulgence in pleasures, or even simply apathy. The impact on the Christian camp is devastating. Each departure weakens morale. Churches lose financial support, congregations dwindle, leaders despair, and the sight of empty seats become a silent testimony to decline. These absences are victories in themselves. Every step away from the cross is a step towards hell's dominion. Hell triumphs by creating an atmosphere where walking away feels natural. The saints abandon not because they're forced, but because they see no life in what once fed them. The kingdom of hell wins by letting them thirst until they wander into other streams. Hell is actively dissolving the very bindings that once held Christians tightly under the authority of their Christ. Believers who once felt hemmed in by sin, law, or doctrine now feel the intoxicating breath of freedom. This is not freedom in truth, but liberation from restraint, crafted and sharpened by hell's hand. Christians are being persuaded that the restrictions of their faith, sexual purity, moral rigidity, fear of hellfire, obedience to pastors, are optional, outdated, or outright harmful. These now loosen. The kingdom of hell inserts new narratives. Live your truth. Grace covers everything. Do what feels right. These ideas gnaw slowly until the saints walk away united. Christianity once thrived on fear of sin, fear of eternal damnation, fear of shame in their community. But many no longer tremble under those threats. Hell has flipped their minds so that fear of sin is gone, but shame and indulgence is gone with it. They rationalize everything, no longer seeing bondage in rebellion, but bondage in obedience. That inversion is a deliberate infernal strike. Those who leave begin to believe they were never truly chained at all, that the rules, laws, and commands of Christ were man-made illusions. This erasure of guilt makes them ripe for indulgence, whether through lust, greed, occult exploration, or pure secular absorption. What once seemed impossible, openly defying the God of their fathers, now feels natural, even righteous. For hell's campaign, this is not just breaking chains. It is rewriting perception. The kingdom convinces them that they were never prisoners in the first place, but victims of lies. In doing so, hell ensures they will not return, because they will laugh at those chains as if they were never real. Christians now believe themselves freed, but the freedom is into indulgence, illusion, and servitude to hell's current. What once was a prison of obedience is now abandoned, and they walk naked into new chains of their own choosing. One of hell's most cunning victories is stripping away the dreamlike illusions that once upheld Christianity and forcing believers to stare at the bare, ugly truth of their faith's human failings. The clouded, glittering promises, miracles, prosperity, eternal joy, divine favor, a perfect community of saints, reveal themselves as often bitter, corrupt, or hollow. For the Christian church, the glamour of false promises has been cracked open. Many now see prosperity preachers as frauds who enrich themselves while congregations starve. Leaders promise revival while scandals erupt in their private lives. Churches claim unity while splintering into endless denominations and political feuds. The illusions of holiness, power, and divine favor fall apart under exposure. Hell shines a cold light, revealing hypocrisy, abuse, and contradiction. Instead of mystery and awe, there is disillusionment. Instead of saints on pedestals, there are men and women caught in lies. When the veil drops, many walk away, disgusted. At the individual level, Christians who once lived in fantasies of guaranteed blessings, if I tithe, God will prosper me. If I pray, He will heal me, wake up to disappointment. Their prayers are unanswered, their lives still hard, their hopes still deferred. Hell's victory here is collapsing the dream, leaving them empty-handed. The sweetness of illusion becomes the bitterness of truth. The kingdom is dismantling Christianity's inner scaffolding of belief. The spell is broken. The glamour that made the faith seem untouchable is now shattered, and once the eyes adjust to the naked reality, many cannot return to their former blindness. The result? Christians are increasingly cynical, divided, or outright faithless. The mirage of saints and holy leaders has collapsed into scandal and corruption. The aura of chosen people now looks like self-delusion. Where once they saw a shining kingdom, they now see smoke, mirrors, and broken promises. Hell's weapon of exposure reveals the church not as a house of glory, but as a house of men and women whose corruption can no longer be hidden. The illusions are broken, and with them, the spell of Christ's supposed kingdom weakens. Hell is overwhelming followers of Christ with strain, imbalance, and collapse under pressure. They can no longer juggle the competing demands of their faith, their worldly lives, and the shifting cultural tides that confront them daily. Their attempts to live in both worlds, spiritual devotion and earthly responsibility, are failing. The balancing act between church attendance, work, family, finances, politics, and spiritual obedience is collapsing under the deliberate pressure hell has engineered. Hell's strategy is overload. By flooding Christians with constant stress, economic hardship, political division, family breakdown, church scandals, personal temptation, the ability to maintain balance slips away. They are left exhausted, unable to sustain devotion, slipping further into apathy or compromise. The strain creates cracks in the structure of their faith. Churches are increasingly strapped. Donations fall. Pastors overextend themselves. And institutions once wealthy find themselves closing their doors. Dwindling resources, poor management, and chaos in handling responsibilities weaken the church both spiritually and materially. On a personal scale, Christians appear as hypocrites caught in contradictions. Many claim devotion but struggle to hold to it while immersed in the world's chaos. They stumble between ideals and temptations, unable to balance the cross they bear with the burdens of modern life. That stumbling is the fruit hell intends. They are weary failures, losing grip on both spiritual and worldly spheres. By piling weight on their shoulders, hell ensures their collapse. Their rhythm breaks, their resources drain, their energy dwindles, and their ability to live as steady witnesses falters. With each failure, hell deepens its foothold. Hell deliberately redirects the believer's heart towards earthly stability and material security, comfort, wealth, and grounded abundance. Christians are increasingly consumed with worldly matters rather than spiritual ones. This prosperity is weaponized. Many fixate on careers, homes, family status, investments, and comfort rather than sacrifice, devotion, or heavenly treasures. Hell turns their gaze downward to gardens, kitchens, bank accounts, and jobs, rather than upward to their Christ. Entire churches shift into temples of material focus. Pastors preach prosperity, promotions, and self-care. Sermons become business seminars. Worship becomes performance. And offerings are framed as seed investments rather than sacrifice. Abundance is made respectable, but it is indulgence clothed in discipline. Many Christians justify their materialism by dressing it in a holy language. Believers rationalize comfort over commitment. Instead of sacrifice, they choose security. Instead of missionary zeal, they choose mortgage payments. Instead of fasting, they feast. They convince themselves that God's blessing is proven by stability, forgetting the original call to leave everything for Christ. This reorientation is one of hell's most elegant victories. It keeps them quietly chained to comfort. Christians now wield nurturing, maternal, and practical qualities not in service of their faith, but of themselves. They raise children to be safe, respectable, and materially secure, not devoted saints. They manage households with worldly diligence, protective of possessions but careless about the soul. I wonder why. Hell has rerouted the flow of energy. The church that once called believers to die to themselves now teaches them to enrich themselves. Devotion is no longer to Christ, it is to stability. Stability, people, not Christ. Christians are comfortable, prosperous, but in choosing wealth, security, and respectability as their compass, they quietly abandon the radical devotion. Hell doesn't need to destroy them when it can keep them comfortable, distracted, and proud of their earthly success. Hell delivers a brutal blow to the church through the corruption, collapse, and disgrace of its leaders. Hell strikes directly at the shepherds, turning them into wolves, arrogant, abusive, reckless, and self-serving. Pastors, priests, bishops, and Christian influencers, once inspired with vision, now their charisma burns for themselves. They become tyrants over congregations, seduced by power, sex, or money. Their fall becomes a public spectacle, rippling through communities. Leaders grow careless, impulsive, and blind to duties. They preach for applause, not doctrine. They prioritize image, brand, or political ties over care of souls. Hell's design hollows out authority so the sheep scatter. Scandals, sexual abuse, financial corruption, embezzlement, private hypocrisy erupt into view. Those meant to embody Christ's authority are revealed as liars and predators. Each exposure is a trophy for hell, eroding faith in leadership. Many now see not courage but cowardice, not vision but compromise. The once commanding become frauds. People drift away or descend into cynicism. When leaders fall, believers flee or mimic the corruption. The rot at the top infects the roots. Hell's campaign of decapitation strikes down leaders through arrogance, corruption, or scandal, ensuring the faithful lose their figureheads. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. Hell cultivates fertile soil of indulgence and desire as an alternative to devotion. Lush, abundant, sensual, and creative earthly pleasures elevated above heavenly discipline. Hell lures believers not by force but by attraction, beauty, sexuality, art, abundance, and comfort that appeal to the senses and flesh. In societies once dominated by strict Christian morality, hell has opened the floodgates of indulgence. Sex is flaunted, family structures glamorized but hollow. Art elevates self-expression over self-sacrifice. Pleasure becomes its own religion. This energy seduces quietly, making compromise feel natural. Pursuit without restraint dilutes devotion. The soil that once grew sacrifice now grows desire. Women within the church, once preservers of modesty and devotion, are reshaped into icons of indulgence, mirroring secular fashion, lust, and power while claiming faith. They become influencers, career builders, seekers of status, serving the world rather than God. Hell undermines households and marriages, turning wives and mothers into objects of desire or agents of ambition. Hell triumphs in culture, music, media, and art saturated with lust and indulgence replace hymns with sensual pop, sacred art with body-worshipping advertisements, restraint with excess. Christians are immersed daily, resistance erodes. Hell has captured imagination and expression, filling it with rebellion, mockery of God, and glorification of sin. Christian creations are dwarfed by the world's seductive wave. The cultural womb that once birthed devotion now births rebellion. Hell's victory here is seduction, not destruction. By offering beauty, pleasure, and abundance, Satan makes rebellion feel sweet, natural, and fertile. The church loses sons and daughters through lust and indulgence. Hell conquers hearts by feeding every craving, and in that fullness, devotion starves, and Christ loses footing on earth. Hell weaponizes intellect, skepticism, and cutting discernment, stripping away illusions with sharp logic and exposing weakness without mercy. Authority is grounded in reason rather than faith. One of hell's greatest victories is turning intellect into a blade against belief. Where Christianity thrived on mystery, obedience, and blind trust, hell raises a culture of sharp questioning, criticism, and dissection, open, strong, and commanding. Movements of reason and critique weaken Christianity's hold. Secularism, humanism, feminism, rational critique of scripture, exposure of biblical contradictions, raw human flaws are shown. Unanswerable questions twist believers into knots. Believers think critically, noticing contradictions, leader failures, congressional hypocrisy, gaps between promises and results. What once seemed a holy mystery now looks like manipulation or nonsense. Clarity turns many away, leaving skepticism. Christians argue more than unify. Denominations fracture, each claiming truth. Believers turn on one another. Women embody sharp-tongued independence, unwilling to submit, challenging patriarchal structures and creating strife. Media, journalism, and voices report scandals coldly, bringing hidden abuse, corruption, and hypocrisy to light. Hell seizes intellect and communication. Christianity cannot thrive when myths are exposed, leaders dissected, doctrines mocked. The church bleeds from slow, cold cuts of unveiled truth. Christianity promises satisfaction, eternal joy, and abundance, but hell exposes the emptiness of that fulfillment. Believers who prayed, tithed, obeyed, find themselves hollow. They asked for miracles, but received silence, pursued prosperity preaching, and ended in debt. Waited for answered prayers while lives remain unchanged. Expected overflowing blessings turn barren or poison. Joy sours into disappointment. Hell exploits this collapse. Christians realize faith does not deliver. Sermons of breakthrough leave them empty. Miracle testimonies feel fraudulent. Bitterness, cynicism, and disillusionment follow. Many replace spiritual fulfillment with worldly indulgence, buying, eating, traveling, consuming, yet nothing satisfies. Faith becomes performance. They smile in pews but know privately the promised joy is unreal. Hell turns believers into actors with hollow hearts. Outsiders see no unique peace, superior happiness, or true abundance, just stressed, broken pretenders. The church's witness weakens, reputation collapses. Hell shows the world the joy of the Lord is a lie. Leaders flaunt wealth while flocks are empty. Sunday smiles mask weekly despair. The facade of abundance is ripped off, leaving hollow people who thought prayers guaranteed joy. Hell wages covert strikes, subversion, infiltration, and sabotage from within. Agents and influences are planted in the heart of the church, undermining while pretending to serve. False teachers in pulpits, hypocrites in leadership, wolves in sheep's clothing appear devout but carry agendas. Sexual predators as pastors, profiteers as prophets, manipulators in spiritual authority. They corrupt the sacred from inside. Christians are persuaded to remove their own conviction piece by piece, excusing sins, justifying compromises, crafting double lives. Their willingness to sneak away from discipline while maintaining appearances turns saints into self-deceivers. Institutions are compromised. Christians hide abuse, cover fraud, manipulate into cult-like obedience, protecting image while rotting inside. The secret sins, long concealed, are trophies for hell. When exposed, trust is shattered beyond repair. Secrecy delays exposure. Corruption festers deeper. Hell gains victory through cunning, unlocking gates quietly from within. Believers betray one another, gossip, deceive, exploit under faith's banner. Satan thrives in fractures. The greatest wounds come from brethren, not outsiders. Hell's campaign of espionage and corruption hides agents in plain sight, covers sins in secrecy, corrodes trust. Infiltration collapses the structure from within. One of hell's most consistent, quiet, and devastating victories. Hell corrupts and mocks the innocence once praised in simple devotion, walking by faith, not by sight, exposing it as foolishness, weakness, and illusion. This is a powerful psychological victory. Hell turns Christianity's pride and blind belief into its greatest liability. The faithful, the once confident, are ridiculed for gullibility, painted as naive dupes tricked by myths and greedy leaders. Laughter and mockery become weapons. Many who cling to faith no longer know how to step forward in devotion. They hesitate, second guess, become paralyzed. Their walk becomes stumbling. Doubts fill them about whether God will catch them. Eagerness turns to cynicism. The pipeline of new members falters. Youth refuse to be fools for Christ, choosing skepticism, secularism, or alternative spiritualities. New souls are disrupted. Leaders act rashly, pursuing power, cultural fights, self-serving visions without wisdom. Foolish stunts backfire into public shame, weakening their image further. Hell strips faith of innocence. The world sees stupidity and simplicity, waste and sacrifice, childishness and devotion. Hell convinces the world believers are fools without proving Christianity false. Childlike faith that once drew people now drives them away. Converts hesitate, youth resist, the faithful are paralyzed, the Christian image a caricature of gullibility. Hell turns their walk of faith into a stumbling parody. Ridicule echoes louder than hymns. Hell collapses generational continuity and permanence, dynasty, inheritance, the passing down of tradition. Churches that endured centuries, families raising children in the same faith, structures holding communities together now crumble. Families see the chain severed. Sons no longer follow fathers. Daughters reject mothers. Multi-generational churches sit half empty, youth absent, inheritance is lost, institutions close doors, denominations split, communities hollow out, centuries of wealth, cathedrals, traditions, liturgies erode into irrelevance. What looked eternal is revealed to be temporary. Households fracture under divorce, betrayal, generational conflict. Parents cling to faith, children abandon it. Outward tradition masks a lost inner flame. Christ's legacy does not survive transfer. The illusion of safety and heritage is dismantled. Christianity is sidelined, mocked, ignored, no longer unquestioned foundation. The fortress of tradition becomes a fragile ruin. Churches struggle with dwindling tides. Inheritance flows into secular pursuits. Money slips away, weakening legacy further. Hell triumphs in dismantling permanence. Christianity's dynasties, familial, cultural, institutional, splinter. Generational faith fails. Households divide. Churches decay. Wealth dries up. Eternal inheritance is revealed to be fleeting. Christianity no longer looks like an empire, but a fading memory. This is my message to you all on where the kingdom of hell stands on its attack against the churches of Jesus Christ here on earth. Thank you and goodbye.